Please like, share and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.
The checkmate we're going to look at here is called the Anastasia checkmate, and that kind of reminds me of a name from Disney, really, and it does have some similarities to some beautiful Disney movie, some happy ending. Well, I should say only for the side checkmating. Well, let's have a look. In this position, it's black to play, and black can force checkmate, and black can do that by opening up the H file. I was going to say the Harry file because that's really what I call it, the Harry file, but the H file. And you can do that by rook takes h2 check, forcing king takes h2, and now the other rook flies into h8 with checkmate. And this is the basic version of the Anastasia checkmate. The white king is trapped on the h file. It's normally blocked in by a pawn, as it is here, and in most situations it's a black knight on e2, which means it can't retreat to g1 or out to g3. So the basic Anastasia checkmate is rook and knight trapping the king and the pawn here. And often to create this, you have to force your way through with the black pieces. Now, where did the name come from? We should always look at the origin of these names if we can. And the checkmate actually got its name from a novel. And the novel, excuse my German, I'm not very good at German, but I'll give it a go. Anastasia und das Schachspiel, in my best German accent there, which actually means Anastasia and the game of chess. And it was first demonstrated, this pattern, in 1803 by a German author who came up with this book on chess. So let's have a look at some more examples, some real games of this checkmate in action. I think it's so important when you're learning these patterns to be able to adapt them to different situations. Sometimes the piece arrangement might slightly change, but if you know the pattern you're trying to create in chess, and the more of these you look at, the better you'll get at working out checkmates quickly and efficiently. Well, you just have to be open, willing and adaptable. And this next example is a case of that. We take ex-world champion Karpov with the white pieces. And this was a potential variation from a game he had against an extremely strong player. In this position, Karpov played rook takes f3. And now black did not play this move, but a possible line here would have been f6. Quite a logical looking move, because black wants to try to open up the g file for his rook and at the same time put pressure on white's center. But f6 is actually a horrible mistake. And if you remember the pattern from the last Anastasia mate I showed you, you should be able to use that same kind of thinking in this position. It's white to play, and white can get a devastating attack with a brilliant move. Pause the video now if you need a bit of time to work out how white can generate a great attack here. Well, the unbelievable move in this position is queen to g6. Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's the kind of move I want on my tombstone when I die. What a move. A brilliant move. And it's a bit similar to Anastasia mate, because in that checkmate, you're trying to force open the H file. But in this situation, you don't actually need a knight, because in this structure, black has a rook on g8, which is stopping the king from going to that square. And the whole point of this combination is, if black plays pawn takes queen, you open up the H file, and rook to h3 is checkmate. Can black do anything else here? Well, not really, because white's going to play rook to h3 anyway. For example, let's say pawn takes e5. We now go rook to h3, and there's something nasty occurring on h7. If h6, well, I'll leave it to you there to work out what white can do to force checkmate. So a very nice example of Anastasia mate, and let's have a look at one more example of this. I have to say, again, the Arabian mate was one of my favourite, but this one, the Anastasia mate, probably tops them all for me. So let's move on to the next example now. This next example, again, is a version of this Anastasia checkmate, and it's created in such a beautiful way from the player of the white pieces here. Now, the thing is, white to move here has a number of ways to really force the win, and I recommend you now pause the video, pretend you're white, and decide what you would play in this position. Well, the simplest way to win here, because your knight on f5 is such a fantastic attacking piece, it was Garry Kasparov who said, amongst others, that having a knight on f5 against an opponent's castle king is often worth at least a pawn. It's an extremely good attacking unit, as we'll see here. That combined with a queen, a bishop, and potentially a rook swinger can lead to a devastating effect. And the easiest way to do this is just to pressurize the g7 square. So something like queen to g5, threatening checkmate in one. Worth pointing out, black cannot move his f-pawn because the bishop is pinning that one. So g6 is pretty much forced, and now the queen can sneak its way in. Queen to f6, again threatening a checkmate on g7, and also knight to h6 checkmate. Black is forced to capture that dangerous knight, but now he's opened up his g-file and also opened up the long diagonal. So there's one move here that just kills the game. Can you spot the move here for white? Should be quite easy. There's more than one move, but I like bishop to d4 when the queen comes to g7 or to h8 with checkmate. The other idea was rook to f3 when the rook can come around to g3 with mates. So that's one way of doing it, but in actual fact, white decided upon another. And white clearly was in some imaginative frame of mood, and he was showboating. It's the kind of thing where, you know, in soccer, as you call it, but it should be called football, where one side has an open goal to score, and they do a little dance before they score the goal. And look at this for a move. Bishop to b6. The point of this move is that white is trying to vacate the e7 square for his knight. And now you should be able to see this Anastasia pattern emerging on the board. And this is something, again, you've got to work back from a lot. If you know a checkmate and you see your pieces in the right squares, you've got to work back from that mate or work towards that mate. Try to create those pieces. And a knight on f5 is a great starting unit to have when you're creating this Anastasia checkmate. The point of this combination, queen takes b6, and now, well, knight to e7 check here is one idea. And after king to h8, you could try the very flamboyant move here, queen takes h7 check, king takes h7 and rook to f3. If you have one more tempo here, it's checkmate, but now black can create a square for his king by playing g6. And actually, you've lost the queen, you're going to lose the game here, so that's not the right move. Can you see the right move here? Let me remind you, this is a showboating technique, probably not the best way to win, but the next move is one of my favourite moves of all time. It reminds me of the golden coin game. White to play and win. This is a tough one, by the way. Pause the video now if you need to have a bit more time to work it out. Queen to g6. Absolutely fantastic. Threatening queen takes g7, mate. So the queen has to be taken. It can't be taken with the f-pawn. That is pinned to the king. And the point of this combination is now you can play knight to e7 check. And after the king goes to the h-file, you can now play rook to f3. What is the difference between the last example? Well, black cannot create a square on g7 for his king because he has two pawns here, a bit of a traffic jam around the king. And this idea of rook to h3 checkmate is pretty unstoppable. The only try black has is queen to c5. I'm going to leave it to you guys now to discuss in the comments what is the most efficient way here for white to finish the game off, because white is indeed doing well here. White is winning, but you can still mess this position up. So discuss this in the comments section. And very nice example of the Anastasia checkmate, but we have plenty more checkmate patterns to come. I hope you're enjoying the series. It's quite fun me filming this. I'm enjoying it myself. And make sure you cover as many as you can. And another reminder, which I said in a previous video, try to create your own versions of the Anastasia checkmate. Even give a link in the comments below. This is a great way to remember those patterns. Bye for now.